No, really, I can't do that. I just started the wrong thing. Every single week I start the wrong thing, and this week I am so not doing it. I'm going to start with nothing rather than start with the wrong thing again. Let me see. Hello, Jan. How are you? Nice to see you again on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes. Hi, Luis. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a while, so lovely to see you again.
Yes, we always have excellent conversations. So, and I've got 3 slides to get through, so I know they're
Okay.
going to be good. Okay, so let's start with the first one. And I'm very happy we don't have electricity problems because last week I deserted Alan for 10 minutes.
Well, we've got um, load shedding at the moment. So,
Oh, okay. All right. But you're still there. Okay. So that's good.
oh, still there.
Okay. Let's look at, so we're sharing an excerpt from your chapter in our new book, Relationships for Men by Men. Yeah, there's so much wisdom in there. So let's get going. Okay, so this one, lovers. Looking back, I was definitely not ready for marriage, but I was still in that frame of mind that I needed to belong, and that's how I attracted the lady that I married. I mean, I just want to stop there because that that paragraph, it says so much. I was still in that frame of mind that I needed to belong, and then you attracted another person who was also attracted to somebody who needed to belong.
Yeah, and well, as you know from the entire story and from my background, already taking a few steps back, I was bullied as a little kid because I was overweight and under height, as they say. And at that time, I wanted to belong because I became the class clown and I started serving a lot because we are basically pack animals. I will say that, no disrespect to anybody, but we want to belong, and especially as kids, we really want to belong. We don't want to be the cast out, and they didn't cast me out, but because of all the name calling and everything, it certainly made me want to serve and belong. Now, at 12 years old, I kind of grew up in height. I still haven't grown up mentally, but grew up in height. And I'm the same height now as I was at that time, which is quite a few years ago. But the thing that kept going, the bullying stopped. But the thing that kept going is that the bullying in here kept going, the mental side. So that I still, even though they stopped, I kept kept that luggage that I started building up over 5 or 6 years. I started carrying that along, and for that reason, I wanted to belong. I was quiet and withdrawn for a lot of the time, because at that time there was no mobile phone, so I could still hide away in my bedroom and things like that. But I wanted to belong. So that mindset that I hadn't done much about it at 17, I started personal development. But by the time I got to 20 years old, I hadn't really done anything about that to a great extent, because every day I was working on it bit by bit. But so that need to belong, that came from when I was younger, and I think a lot of us, we take so much luggage, as we all know, up until the age of 7. Most of us get created everything that we take in. So if it's good, bad, or indifferent, that's I think it's 90% of who we are comes from those first 7 years. So when I started to learn that, it made sense, but not at the time. So wanting to belong, I looked for I looked for a relationship. I landed in a relationship, and it was lovely. But would I have married at the time? Probably not. But circumstances happened, and I got married. But at least I belonged somewhere. It was kind of became part of my identity.
Yeah, I resonate with what you say because I was also very quiet, and I was also used to hiding a lot in my bedroom, especially when I was younger. And now, so you talk a lot, I talk a lot, we talk a lot, but that doesn't make us extroverts. We talk a lot about the subjects that we're really passionate about, but it still doesn't make us extroverts. And so it's hard for people to understand that even although we can get very passionate, we can get extrovertedly passionate as introverts, that that there was a time in your life when you didn't belong, you didn't feel like you belonged anywhere, and then somebody comes along, and so we take all the logic things. Yeah, but people get married and they get in relationships, and it's not to be nice not to be alone. It's not nice not to be left out. And there's the sexual attraction, and there is having company, and there is somebody likes me enough. I should be going out with this person. But underneath all of it sits this deep desire to be seen for yourself and accepted for yourself and have a place where you feel safe to be, really exposing yourself because somebody's accepting you. And then, bam, it doesn't matter what happens after that, you're in it.
Yeah, and it wasn't an experience that lasted very long. 3 years in total from when I got married, and we had a little baby girl, of course, which I'm truly proud of, and she is now, well, she's just turned 39, and yeah, but I mean it brought other luggage with it as well, because it became fairly obvious that it wasn't a match made in heaven. Let's put it that way. And but young and inexperienced, and that need was there, and when we do that often in life, that we make decisions that are not really good for us, but we make them for a variety of reasons, and that was my one, and yeah, we lasted 3 years, and that's when it all broke down. Again, adding more luggage to it, because I also saw that as that I'd failed regardless of what happened. You're more so because of a 3-year-old child involved. I mean, adults, it's one thing, but knowing that there is a 3-year-old child involved, that bothered me much. That's really the only thing that bothered me at the time. Of course, the other things played a part in it, but I mean, that was the main thing.
So before we carry on here. Okay, so this is so funny. Before you ask, yes, you have good sound and video. This is the most important people that you talk to. If you know somebody's a regular, if they know what they thank you for that. Not sure who it is, maybe Mitch, I'm not sure, but thank you for that. And here's the match made in heaven one. Hi, Avi.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, feeling loneliness is dangerous with just choosing anyone. Just now, I'm going to invite you inside again, because this does happen sometimes. Okay, all right. I want to go back to that quote of yours that I read. I decided after this failed relationship, filled with betrayal and breaking of trust, that this is not for me, that I was better off on my own and concentrated on working harder than before, weekends included. I felt wanted there. It's that part. I felt wanted there. That's the part. I felt So many of us, we find that thing, sport or somebody else or work. I mean, in my case, also when I was at my unhappiest, that's when I was the most into my job.
Just 2 minutes.
Are you there?
Yes, but hold on.
Do we have a time lag?
No, we haven't got a time break. Well, I took a time break. I actually sent my StreamYard link to her, because if she's got a laptop that lasts much longer. So if mine goes out,
good
I
thinking.
can actually put it on a laptop. Then we can swap laptops. When I know things are.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
very good idea.
Yeah. So yes, again, it seemed to be the easy way out, and it's happened a few times. I think I mentioned it later on in the story as well, that I just hid in my work. But in my work, because I started being really good at it as well, I was one of the very few experts in the world eventually in what I did. It was in the inspection and specialized parts of it. But I mean, I enjoyed it fairly well. I never hated my job, but it was so easy to just substitute work for family life, if you like, and for the disasters that happen. So rather than sit at home and think about it, it was much easier just to go to work. We had 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer, and by the time you come home again, you need to sleep for a few hours as well. So it was a convenient way to I suppose in a way hide away from that part, but at least do something that I felt mattered.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we are going to get into habits at a time when we are, especially at the beginning of relationships, very few of us are emotionally mature and very ego-driven and very needs-driven, codependent. And if we then find something where where we're feeling that feeling of I'm more wanted there, and that's not hard to imagine, because if you're in a relationship where somebody's detached, or if you're in a relationship where there's a lot of blaming and shaming and guilting and criticism, you're going to find somewhere where you feel good.
Yeah, and to feel good about that, and I did feel good because I was developing myself, and I loved self development since, as I mentioned, since I was 17. So I started developing myself, but also in my work, in my technical work. So not only the personal side, but also the business side. I started developing myself. I started practicing all those personal skills I was learning, and the whole lot came together. And I've always been very much a people person, and I don't think anybody will argue with the fact that I'm. Yes, I know. I'll say statistics, because if I say the other words, people might misunderstand my Scottish accent when I say facts. But I mean, it is so interesting when I look back, because it was not only the personal development, but the total development that I was working on, and the job worked so well because I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed getting to know things, whether it's on a personal level or on a even a spiritual level. I was asking lots of questions, but holistically, and the job just. I mean, I never chose the job. The job kind of chose me, because many people know when they leave school what they want to be. Well, when I was still in school in the Netherlands, I wanted to become a pilot. And then we moved to Scotland when I was just about 17 years old. So that kind of took a detour as well. But we were 15 minutes away from a place where they built oil rigs and subsea structures and those kind of things. So I eventually landed up there after leaving school. And it was kind of interesting. It was so different from what I'd ever thought or seen, but there was also a lot of camaraderie. In the oil business, you work together for long periods of time. Somebody once said, "It's bad if you can't get on with your wife or your partner, but it's even worse if you can't get on with your colleagues, because we work in 12-hour shifts a week." So he said, if you by the time you leave home and come home, you're 14 hours away from home. You need to do some sleep, so you basically spend more time with your colleagues than with anybody else. And there is a fair bit of truth in that, of course.
Yeah, but Jan, look, if you look at your life today, will you, in your wildest dreams, think of putting work ahead of Avi?
No, not in my wildest nightmares either. No, I mean,
I think I've made my point.
Yes.
I think I've made my point.
Oh, yes.
Because it really depends on the relationship that comes from both parties. If you don't feel wanted, you're going to bugger off and find something else, or you're going to become passive-aggressive, which is another way of, I'm just going to work because I'm passive-aggressive. I'm really annoyed at you. I feel hurt.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to become spiteful, and if you don't work on the relationship, cheers, I'm out of here. I've got a job to do. I've got a good excuse. But somewhere where I'm wanted. So it's those words, somewhere where I'm wanted.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, if you look at just at those words, where you're in a relationship where you know you are wanted. So you're in a relationship with somebody who's willing to be vulnerable and to communicate with you and have boundaries, um, and and have that balance, and two adults showing up, and that makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yes, and the fact that we, as you know, we work together as well, which is even more amazing, because we've got even though we've got different ideas, but we've got a similar passion to impact millions of lives, and we play. It's great to be in the same training room together, because I love to see Artie at work, because she's amazing at what she does, and I assist in what she does, and when there is something that I do, she works with me as well, and there are some things that we just do completely together. We've got some amazing programs, but that's also because people said also, now you've got a relationship that this time I don't have to hide in work, because we are at work together as well. But that's another thing I would never have thought possible previous to this. And as you know, it's been a fair journey to get here, but it's been amazing, and I've still got a way to go. But I've come a long way, and to have somebody like Artie by my side is phenomenal.
Okay, so Jan, so if I think back about what one of our other guys have said, Sherman Daly has said, that if men spend the same amount of work on their relationships that they put into developing their career, we wouldn't have relationship problems.
Well, a large part of that is true. But of course, that is also assuming that it's the man that is where the only problem lies. It's not always the case, but there is certainly. See, I went from not having that putting work in, it wasn't working. I don't ever put enough work in it, but I went to my work early on already, especially because that's where things were happening. Where at home it was arguments and those kind of disagreements, and I wouldn't even talk at times, because I thought, if I open my mouth, we're going to get an argument. If I don't open my mouth, there is an argument, because I don't talk. And I said, well, I'm in a no-win situation. So for me, I'll have a discussion, but I'm not really, even now, I'm not really into an argument. Sometimes there is a discussion that needs to happen that is a little bit more stern than usual, when people are just whether they're pissing me off big time because they're talking out of their neck, or another way, because I don't go and roll over and say, oh no, no. But if there is something to be said, people can tell me, and I will tell them as well. I used to have that at work. Says, tell me if I do something wrong, don't talk behind my back. Tell me to my face, because then I can either defend myself, it's not true, or do something about it, because I don't. That's for me is the best way. So yes, even with my friends, we've had interesting discussions, and people say, "Oh, I've lost my best friend in the last couple of years." No, you didn't. You don't lose your best friends on relatively silly things like this. But I said, well, the good thing is, it was never your best friend in the first place, because we don't agree on all of this kind of stuff. But losing my friends for 40 years, no chance. I says, now you've made space to let a real best friend enter your life, because now you know that was never going to be. So it's true that sometimes we have that opportunity more, men, because of the work relationship that used to be. Now that there is, both men and women go to work. So I don't know if it's always the case that men run away run towards work rather than run away, but both.
No, women do it too.
Yes.
Oh, no, women do it too. No, I did the same. And I also think Sherman's comment is true in a very big, in a very big way. But it can be true for women too. We will very easily pay for personal development when it comes to career and to making money. But it's much harder for us to pay for our own personal development. But I also think we have a problem that we don't have enough examples of great relationships, of not being codependent, of how to really communicate. And that's a big problem for everyone. So we don't know where to start with working on ourselves. So Okay, wait. Before we carry on, Alfie's got some good comments.
Okay. I hope Artie can give me her laptop shortly.
Okay. All right. So yeah, if Alfie's going to get you a laptop shortly, I will hold the fort until we see you again. I've got
Yeah,
enough here to.
I'm not away yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So great comment, Alfie. Another really good one. It does take a certain amount of growth and maturity, and growth and maturity is not something we have a lot of when we get married at 19, like I did. we will get
Well,
it. We'll,
yeah.
we'll get married for all the wrong reasons when we get married at 19.
Yeah, and
Well,
I
I
was
certainly
20.
did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was 20, and I was a father at 21, a grandfather at 39, and I'm just about to become a great grandfather. Okay, so I will just click on the
You'll
other.
switch over,
Yeah.
and I will read. You can switch over. I will read your.
Oh,
I'm going to remove you, and I'll add you. There we go. Perfect.
I
All
will
right.
get out.
All right. You're on the next one. That's fine. I have removed you. You can.
Yeah, I'll just leave. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect switch. All right. And we switch behind the scenes here. So let's read this. It has become very obvious to me that daily development is a key to grow through life, rather than what most of us do, just go through life. How can you do that? Be intentional and create a personal development plan. We all have something inside us that is special and unique to us. Too many times we find reasons why we cannot do something and put it off until tomorrow. The reality is that we just keep making excuses and die with that greatness still inside of us. Most people have already settled for the life they have, even though they have dreams and wishes which have been beaten out of them by the constant negativity, struggles, and disappointments. And I also think automatic, just carrying on autopilot. John Maxwell always said, "Once you have tasted significance, success is never enough." I didn't understand the difference between those two until then. I finally saw that what significance was. I experienced it. I felt it. Let's talk about significance. That's really a good thing to talk about.
Yes, and I talk about it a lot now because, as I said, the significance thing. At first, I never understood that sentence. I joined the John Maxwell team, now Maxwell leadership team in 2012, and I've heard him say that a few times, and I had no idea, no clue what the difference was between significance and success. And I think I need to mention that first because I think that there's plenty of people like me. I was not the only one, I don't think. But success is something for yourself. That's all for you. There's plenty of people who are successful. They have the big car, the big houses, all that kind of stuff, but they're empty inside. I mean, they say that some of the last 5 billionaires died empty, which is a sad thing to see, but there is plenty. On the other hand, there is plenty of people who don't have those earthly riches, if you like, but they've got significance. Because significance is something you do for other people, and significance has nothing to do with money, with age, with gender, with culture. It's got to do with your outlook in life. What can I do to make an impact in people? So that just kind of puts that to bed. And as I said, when this happened to me, when I all of a sudden experienced this. See, I knew I needed to go with John Maxwell to help start transformation of an entire country, the country of Guatemala, and it completely changed my life. I write a little bit about it in the book as well, but it completely changed my life because of that. See, I always knew. I think most of us have a little voice inside of us that we kind of neglect. That little voice can say, "No, don't get married, you stupid bugger. I mean, that's the wrong person." No, we neglect them too because we know better. The thing that says, "Oh, yeah, well, you've got an opportunity here. Take that opportunity because it's yours." No, I'm not ready for it. We start arguing with a little voice, and sometimes we put that little voice to bed because what you read earlier on as well, as there is many who've already settled for, and I couldn't settle for. I mean, I was, as I said, when I eventually left my job, I didn't do that because I hated it, but that voice became too strong, and for me to to find significance. And one of the aims, because of us working with both Arthur and myself, again, working together as values-based leadership specialists, we work and changing the culture of entire companies. But it's something that I want other people. What I felt in Guatemala, and as I said, I experienced that, I felt it, I saw it in the people, in their eyes, and I thought, I want more of this. That to me, it was a selfish reason, but I want more of being able to help other people to see what's to make an impact in their life, to make them see that they matter and that they're worth it. And you know, when I think it was the initial conversation me and Arthur had in Orlando at Maxwell Leadership Training where we met. And I told her about this passion and what had happened the year before that, because we met in 2014 and what had happened the year before. And that's why I was still in the job, but I was I just quit my job because it was in August. But I told her about this as well because I wanted to share this with people, and I thought it's so important when we settle for life, when that dreams and everything we always wanted to be, when that's pushed out of us, that also is detrimental in our relationship with each other. Because if we are empty inside of there is, you know, I love that in where they say it about hope, where there is hope in the future, there's power in the present, but also where there is no hope, the people perish. So you put the two of them together and say, so most people are hopeless, even more so now. I mean, we've talked about this before, and that's for a different discussion, different book maybe even. But we've talked about this before, that so many people are now hopeless. So many people, and relationships are not surviving. There's tension in the relationship. I mean, lockdown was a disaster. I think there was more divorces during lockdown than many other times before that. But it's all of a sudden people need to be together and they're not used to that. And when you've got hopes and dreams and things you can live for, it makes everything better. And then when you feel that significance, that there is something that you can do for other people, that you can impact lives. Because I know that everybody's got a purpose. I know that everybody's got a destiny. But most people, unfortunately, take that to the grave with them, and on the way have an awful lot of disasters in their relationships, in their commitment to others, in their the way they behave themselves, because they're sad, they're empty, they're negative, their emotions are all on a negative downward. And with that, of course, you attract all kinds of negativity, including diseases and all this kind of stuff. So there is so much that can be said about significance and about, you know, finding your passion and purpose. You know, I love this because, oh, there you go. It is, I love this. Insignificant is the feeling I'm unwilling to feel. And that's it. But when you're unwilling to feel it, do you know what significant feels like? Because I think I want people to experience that even in the smallest bit, because again, it says, once you've tasted significant, success will never be enough. And that means that once you've tasted that idea that you can help other people, that you can work together with other people, that you can build relationships, because that's what leadership is all about. It's all about building relationships on a much bigger scale than but it starts with self. We need to have a relationship with ourselves first, because if we can't love ourselves, how can we love other people? What is our self-esteem and our self-belief like? So insignificance, if you don't want to feel, it's also to go away. See, people, there is more reasons, but people will change for basically two reasons. There's 4 or 5, but the two main ones is they move away from pain or they move towards pleasure. But if the feeling of significance gives them that inner completeness, that inner pleasure, that it is so much easier to build relationships in that frame of mind, that heart-centered idea that, you know, we are doing something good for the world, and by that we feel better ourselves as well. But we need to build ourselves first. So it's very interesting that comes up.
Yeah, it's really important. You know, I never looked for significance, but when I started loving myself, significance found me. It really is. And I want to go back to what Mitch have said there. So if I do not matter, we have to, it's everything what you're saying, totally agree, because we have to matter to ourselves first before anything else. Significance come after that. It's like an automated thing. It just comes after that. You don't actually even have to go. When you believe in yourself, when you matter to you, everything comes after that.
And yeah, and I mean, I found this out. I mean, we actually we've had some interesting conversations in the last few weeks with an iridologist to look at somebody who looks in your eyes, apart from Artie does. But I mean, it is amazing the conversation I had with this person, and I mean, one of the things and they keep asking questions, and they see so much in eyes that a doctor will never see, and it was phenomenal. And I know I've still got work to do for, within myself, and the self-love needs work. Even though you think, after all these years, it'll bit every time another bomb dropped and another disappointment dropped, it takes a dent in yourself, not in your self-love. And as you know as well, at some point I decided, and Arthur was the recipient of it for a while, I don't need to be with somebody else anymore. I'm better off alone, because I don't have to have all that hurt, that rejection and all that kind of stuff. And so you add all this up, the bullying, and then the marriage breakdown, and another breakdown, and a relationship breakdown, and eventually thought, and again back to work, back to work. But I think also something important is, and I know you want to talk about it as well, is about being open enough to ask for help. And that is so difficult for us men, because grown men don't cry, the stiff upper lip and all that kind of nonsense that we've been fed as young people. And then we see a lot of that kind of stuff in our parents, in our father, in our grandfather, because it always used to be like that. Men don't talk about that mumbo jumbo stuff called love and vulnerability and hurt and all that kind of stuff. Suck it up, buttercup. That's a bit. It was really so different, and I think that's why these kind of things are so important, that we really the initial interview when you did the Facebook series, it was so revealing as well as so enlightening, because it helps my speaking as well, because to become more vulnerable, you connect better with people anyway. And I have a lot less challenges with that now than I would even talk about that before. But it was time, and if I ever want to go to the levels that I want to be at, I need to start opening up. I mean, Artie still reminds me of that. But it's a kind of things that this guy saw as well. I talked about religion, and I'm curious, so I question everything. That's not because I'm disrespectful, but I want answers, and not only from one religion, but from the whole lot. So he said, "You're not religious, you're spiritual." And I did a strength character, the VIA strength character test, where you get 24 strengths you can do that for free online. And what came up? The number one was spirituality. After I met him, and I thought, well, that's interesting, because I did it a year ago and it was in my top 5. It was number 5, and now it came to number 1. And I think that's also partly to do that I'm slowly but surely getting more at peace with myself and accepting myself more. Because he also said, would you like yourself? Would you take yourself as a client? Because we're good at giving advice, but taking it, mind your own business. Do as you're told. But it is interesting. All these kind of things coming together at the right time. But we need to start vibrating at a different level. We need to become more open to these kind of things, and that needs the discussions you brought out in me and all the other men. And that's why this book is so important, I think, for a lot of men, even for women.
Yeah. It is, but look, I mean, we're doing a series of this, and men and women have actually grown through being interviewed on the series, because I've been asking everybody, are you willing to talk about your story? Are you willing to be vulnerable? For men, I've said, are you willing to tell people how you messed up? And you haven't seen Jonathan's forward as yet, and it comes to the same thing about men having to be these strong guys, and this is all the same thing. And I know that men and women have grown through first the interview and then writing this chapter. This is why this book is so powerful. I talked to Alan last week, and Alan Jumonco. And when we had the conversation, he was very careful about what he said. And this book, when the chapter came out, is like, wow. So about stages of growth. and then taking it a bit further, and now being ready for the next step. And I do that too. I'm sharing more things that I've shared before. We get ready through this work. Let me just share something else that Afi have. I'm getting behind here. Okay. All right. Thanks, Afi. I really appreciate that. Yes, that's why I'm doing the self-esteem course now. I moved it up because I realized it's this whole thing. I realized how much we get stuck if we don't build our sense of self, because it's not, it's that thing of I matter. So this is so important. Okay. And here's another really good image. I have to just keep up with Afi. I can't get behind here.
Yeah.
Because every comment is good and on point. So thank you for that, Afi.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It is emotionally draining to help a man find himself if he doesn't understand the concept, if he doesn't know. He's supposed to be emotionally available. He's supposed to work for his feelings. He's supposed to, like you say, make peace with yourself, grow into your story.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so, yeah.
And she deserves a medal for that one. Because I mean that's I was the thing is with a good relationship, I never realized how much of a mess I was, really. I mean, I was happy, yes, and I was good at stuff, and when I was speaking and I was doing other kinds of stuff and blah blah blah. But really, when it came to the emotional connection, I was. If you could go lower than 0, but I was close to that 0 level. If you're from a scale to 1 to 10, and 10
It's
will
very
never happen.
normal, isn't it? In the man world, that is very normal.
It is, because we have all kind of conversations, but we will never have those kind of conversations. Normally, you need to know somebody really well, and then I could probably have a fairly good conversation with my very best friend, no problem. But it doesn't happen. We have kind of great conversations, but not at that level that Artie and myself have. And Artie brings out the best in me. And that's been a project and a half. Emotionally draining. That's probably an understatement. But she stuck with me.
Don't take it personally.
No. She stuck with me, and but I mean, I don't take that personally. But I mean, I know what she has done for me and with me, because she didn't just do it for me because she's been building me. It also helped us. So it's I wouldn't say, I mean, I would never go to say, well, she did it for personal reasons. No. She did it to help me, because she saw where I was. She saw the potential in me enough that she wanted to marry me, of course. But I didn't see that. I mean, I never thought I was marriage material anymore. I mean, they can look in the book as well. There is a few areas I've got, and in between that, you get other things. See, I'm a very positive kind of guy. High energy. When I talk as well, I need to watch myself, because otherwise I'll come through the screen and stand at your table talking to you. But there is the people say, yeah, but I mean, surely bad things must happen to you as well. Oh, yes, they have. And I can still recall even there was a death of a young man who was like a little brother to me. And I mean, because it affected so many people around us, it was my best friend's nephew. It affected so many around us in the martial arts field, because most of my friends at that time were, and my best friends as a group of people from that martial arts side. And I was a strong one outside again, because of everything I helped, because I saw how much they hurt, and I thought, I can't. I mean, I was crying at home, by the way, but I mean, it took me on my knees, and I thought, well, I'm so glad. See, the reason I started my personal development journey at 17 helped me. It's 22 years ago now that this accident happened. It was a sudden death, a road accident, and it helped me all those years, but I needed them all to make sure that I could function. And then, of course, what happened? It happened while I was home from work. Then the funeral was, and a week later I had to go back to work. That next year was an interesting one, by the way. I mean, I said I was perma-pissed, which means I was at the end of a bottle of alcohol every night and I had a a good friend who also liked to drink, and we just sat there chatting. But I mean, that was every day, every week. So it is, these things kind of happen, and as men, I don't think we not ever, but hardly ever deal with them enough. That we all, I mean, I probably would have been better off, taking some time out and going and get some help. But I didn't think I needed help. But I mean, instead, the fact that for the next year we were drinking all the time, and it wasn't all sad. We had a good laugh and all that, but the alcohol was there all the time, and so to drown yourself in work and bottle it up, pardon the pun, but it is those kind of things that we see in men. I mean, men sometimes they go out and start alcohol abuse, drugs abuse. They get violent. They go fighting at the weekends and think that'll help them. All kinds of things that we think we need to deal with it, and yet all we need to say is, I wish at that time I had got help. But again, Les Brown always says, my friend the mentor says, there is no such thing as coincidence. He says coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. And I don't care whether people are spiritual, atheists, or otherwise. When you look back, everything happens for a reason. So had I got help then, where would I have been today? Probably not here. Probably not talking to you. So see, all these things happen. And when I eventually quit my job, people said to me, "Oh, don't you think you've wasted the last 30 years?" No, I said, I see that very different. 20, 30 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for what's coming. I think I've been prepared for 30 years, and I've prepared myself for 30 years. And that's a whole different view.
I completely agree with you.
But
you can't go back to what ifs, but you've got everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to. You may just not like it. I think that's a Marion Williamson quote, but you may not like it, but it does happen for you. And once you actually understand that all of even the things you didn't want, even the things all of those things have brought you to today. I couldn't be helping a single person if I didn't go. I don't want to be helping people from book knowledge. It's not. I'm talking to people from experience. I think when you're talking from experience, you can say that's where I was. Then people know to hope. They know it's possible. If you come from book knowledge, it's just not that same. And a lot of people really need hope, like you said in the beginning. Here's another one. Another cup? Where are you? There you go. Good point, Alfie. Good point.
Yeah, there is a bit of that. But yeah, she's right. Here too.
Yeah. And this is a good one. I mean, I'm happy you brought up the alcohol, because it is so absolutely rife in society. And where alcohol abuse under women used to be fairly rare, women as much as men are nowadays using sleeping pills and prescription medicine and alcohol, because women are exposed to big stress, single families, having to deal with all of this. But it doesn't take anything away from the situation, doesn't make it better. There's less of us, it's temporary, not very dangerous. So I'm glad you got out of it. Let's read another little bit. In our marriage, yours did no good whatsoever. I can't read all of that. Blamed for being more married to my job. There's a horrible thing in front of what I'm supposed to do. I should have talked, opened up, and really should have asked for help, but I didn't. There you go. Instead, I bottled up.
There you go.
I hid in my work, which I was good at, and I physically and mentally drowned all of that pain out, creating more pain in myself and others in the process. It was simple. If not now, when? If not this, what? If not me, who? That little voice had come to the surface and got clarity at last. For some of us men, we might sometimes have to take a step back, look in the mirror, and ask that person on the other side some real serious questions, hoping that it gives you some insightful answers. So just what we were talking about. Okay, so what are the questions that we should be asking ourselves? Have you got a few examples for us?
Well, the first one is, and this guy asked me last week as well. He says, have you ever looked in the mirror? I says, yes. And he says, what do you see? And that is, I think, the first thing. What do you see? And that might be the silliest of question, but most people will not have an answer. Are they? And I said, well, sometimes I see, and I've always got this thing in the back of my mind somewhere. I used to be overweight before, so I need to watch that. And so sometimes I see I put in a bit of weight, and sometimes I lose a bit of weight, and it's not that big a deal. But I mean, it happens at times, and the other thing is, first of all, most people cannot look at themselves in the mirror, and I mean not looking, and the mirror is there. No, looking at the guy or the girl on the other side square in the eyes, and do that for 5 to 10 minutes. It is a frightening thing to do for most people, and even more frightening if you do that to somebody else. At the sales place, we were doing this for 5 minutes, looking at somebody else in the eye, and it was a stranger to us. Basically, we'd met him for 3 days, and says, well, what you see. And there was people who started to cry. They could not deal with themselves. What I realized that it has a lot to do with how your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, how confident you feel, and how confident you feel with yourself. And then you don't think enough of yourself, that frightens you. Just to do something like that, not saying a word. So for us to look in the mirror, the first of all, without saying anything, have a look. And just don't say anything, but look. And if you can do that for 5 minutes already, but at some point to have a conversation, but try that first and see what and if you have any reactions, write them down, because there will be emotions, and for most people they will be negative emotions, because they start looking at themselves, and even if you start looking away that you can't do it, and you look back again, and it's whatever goes through your head, but when you feel in a certain way, when these things come up, as Arthur already wrote there as well, why do I feel that way? What is the problem? So it's also asking questions, and then to the other person, what do you want from the rest of your life? Do you want to go through life the way you've been going through it so far? Because most people keep repeating everything day in, day out. They don't develop themselves. And if you don't develop, you're going down, because you don't stand still anyway. So they don't develop themselves. They wonder why life happens. And what do I say to myself on a daily basis is another good question, because they say on average we talk 70,000 words to ourselves, and most of them we wouldn't say to the person that you love or the dear friend. So then there's something wrong with self-talk. So what do I say to myself? And what purpose does it have, and how can I change that? Because if it is negative, how can I change my situation? See, we say in the values-based leadership as well as this, thoughts become actions, actions become habits, and habits become our destiny. But from that, everything begins with a thought. So what am I thinking when I see this? What do I see? How do I feel? Where am I going? You can have all these kind of personal questions. There are so many different questions you can have with yourself. But at first, I would just be quiet and look and see what emotions are coming. And then you can start having the question, why am I feeling this? Why am I nervous just looking at myself? It's me. I've lived with that person for X amount of years. How can I still be nervous looking at that person in the mirror? Where is the problem? And it's in here somewhere.
And this is a quite hard thing to do, because we've got so many blind spots about ourselves. I had the privilege yesterday to do a workshop for a group of teachers, the most beautiful people. I just love each and every one of them. And at the end of it, I asked them, what did you find out about yourself today? And the one lady said, I thought I was a nice person, and I didn't realize how critical I am. And so, I mean, that's big. And it's because I had a lot of worksheets. So everybody had to do a lot of self-reflection with the worksheets that I gave you. And that's the kind of thing, when you get questions, Alfie's got some good questions here, I'm going to share them now. So when you get good questions, you can do self-reflection. And when you have self-reflection, you can get awareness. And once you have awareness, you can actually change something. You can't change anything if you don't know which questions to ask, which is hard to find. And you can't do anything if you don't have awareness that this is something that you need to pay attention to. Let's look at a few of his questions. You've got that one already. What
Yeah.
else? I swear, this looks like you read my book here, Alfie. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, even think about asking help with emotional issues. That's quite a big one, hey?
Huge. And I mean, Artie shows that as well. You know, a friend of ours, a master coach, said you only get answers to the question you ask. And that might be silly, but I mean, some of us need to ask better questions. You know,
Yeah.
not, and especially from ourselves.
Yeah. And we definitely have to reach out to other people. Otherwise, we don't see our own blind spots. So okay. So really important that we ask those questions about ourselves, and then the next step, get input from somebody that is actually qualified to help you. Get input from somewhere, because if you don't have those good questions, you're not going to know. You're not going to know where to start. Don't you think it starts with a willingness to be wrong about yourself,
Yes.
about a lot of things?
Well, I mean, that's also very important because I say it quite often when I speak my truth, it is not to convince other people, it is to give them another perspective. And that's how Arthur and me talked about it the other day on Sunday. We had a long conversation as well. And you know, the idea about the rest of our life, and it's changing mindsets. And we need to change mindset. Now, that doesn't mean that what I say is right, but at least I can give them a perspective and to get people to think again, at least, because George Bernard Shaw said it many years ago. He says 2% of people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. And somebody else said, you know, thinking is such a difficult pastime that most don't take part in it, because we confuse mental activity with thinking, and real, you know, the education system, however good it is, it's bashed, it's beaten the creativity out of us, because we were told what to think and when to think it, not how to think and why to think. So we need to get more into the how and why thing, and that's why coaching, I think also, people can do well with a coach. You know, whether it's a life coach or anywhere else, because Les Brown always said, you know, once you're in the picture, you can't see the frame. And that really talks to that these blind spots we have, that we can't see everything. But the hardest thing, for at least for a man, is asking for help. And because that, in a way, that admits that they're not in control. That admits they have, by doing that, they have to admit that there is things that they are failing in, that things that are no good in their lives. But it's the best thing we can do, you know. And it is a powerful way. And because again, a lot of the time people say, well, if you get somebody who's going to help you, oh, that's not a coach, that's a shrink. You've got a shrink, and the stigma attached to that, and because of the name calling. But I mean, it is sometimes we're even afraid to ask questions because we think within ourselves, well, that's stupid. But I always like the quote that says, it's better to ask a question and be a fool for 5 seconds than don't ask it and remain a fool for life. Yeah. And a fool to yourself. You know, it's not to the other people, really. Yes, that's what they meant. But I mean, that's really what it is. Are we fooling ourselves? Are we going through life and saying things are okay? They're not okay. And then when we grow older, we get illnesses because most of them are psychosomatic, and they start here. So if everything here is already really screwed up, and then we wonder why we get ill all the time, where we catch the flu, we catch everything going from everybody else when they only have to walk to the front door and you've already got it. You know, it is because it's a dis-ease. Our body is not at ease with ourselves. It's not with everything else. And that's what's happening so much at the moment. We are really uneasy with everything that's happening around us just now, that we start attracting it, because we all know the power of attraction. Not Brené Brown, that's a whole different ballgame. No, in The Secret, you know, you are what you think about. And then people say, and I have some sad examples as well, but people think about, they're trying their best to avoid certain diseases and illnesses, that they concentrated on it all the time, and then they get it, and they wonder why they got it, because no, the reason you got it is because you spend all your time thinking about it.
Our problem is that we identify with our thoughts. we completely identify and we believe our thoughts, and we don't understand how much power we have to change our thinking. And we're not going to change our thinking until we get outside input, or we find the good questions. And those good questions are not going to jump into our head. We've got to go
No.
look for it. It's either outside. I don't think there's any other way. It's outside of us, or we need to find the questions to ask ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to. This is not a magic solution. It's not something we're not going to get more wisdom and healing and learn how to control our destiny and our thought patterns
Hmm.
if we just walk around day to day business. We actually have to go look for it and give it time and attention if we want to change where we want to go. We're
and,
nearly at the
and
end.
yeah, and I think that just one part on that is that, when two people get a partnership, and I mean, I say two people because we're living in a world now where we have to respect everybody and their their the way they feel about each other. But when two people, if when they both are confident in themselves, they're much more likely to build a solid relationship, because there's nothing to prove and there's nothing else to look at. I mean, of course, that level have to be there as well, because it's not just, oh, I'm thinking well about myself, and you go totally different separate ways. No, but when you are attracted to each other and you're both growing in confidence with each other, but also with yourself. And I mean, Arthur does it so wonderfully all the time. She lifts me up, and she helped. I mean, I know that to go to the next levels and the next vibration and all that kind of stuff. And Arthur is amazing in doing such things. And I know there is work to be done, but there always is. But the fact that we need to recognize that we are a work in action. It's not just a finished article and we're done, because that's the most dangerous thought you can ever have on so many levels. But that we need to, and I think a lot of people will get so much out of the book because there is so many different stories and so many different angles. Even when the conversations were on Facebook, I thought, wow. And you could even hear people responding to it as well. I never thought about that. Thank you for bringing this. This will help me in my relationship, and it helps me with me. And that is, I think, the biggest thing, that if it helps people with themselves more than anything.
Jan, I think the biggest value of this book is that men are talking openly about their feelings, about mistakes, about getting help, about their own vulnerability. So men has been vulnerable, and people have been sucking it up. It's amazing. It tells you it's possible. I mean, all of you guys in this book, I just absolutely love and adore everyone, because you've been so brave and you are showing it's possible. We will just keep on having these conversations. I want to quickly say hi to everybody here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the hearts. I like the hearts. Thanks, Alex. I haven't said hello to you. I don't know whose Facebook user tonight. And hi, Raj Kapoor. Nice to see you. And then I'm going to get in trouble here because I don't know if I'm going to say it right. It's a king. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
It's a king.
It's
A
a king.
dear friend, an amazing lady in Pretoria.
Yeah, so a beautiful, beautiful heart. I love it. Please. So I'm going to ask everybody to share this. And if anybody has any last comments or questions, so we're going to take last comments and questions now. I want, where's Alfie gone to? Did the batteries die on the other side with load shedding?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we like Alfie's comments. So I'm noticing when I'm not getting them. So any more questions? Anything else? And then our book should be coming out in the next week or two. We're fairly near to getting our book out, so it's quite exciting. So we're very excited about that. And yeah, I know this is something that everybody who knows a man should buy.
Yeah.
Everybody who knows a man should buy it. This is the kind of book. I'm going to just keep this price so cheap because I really want this book to go to everyone. So if you have a son, a husband, a brother, a friend, if they are men, then There. Hi. So I said it right. Hi, chicken.
Yeah,
Nice to meet
it's
you.
again.
I
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
it's amazing
So,
lady.
so if 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 we know a man,
Yeah.
we need to buy that book. It's. This is one I think that should be in everybody's Christmas goodie bag.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially, hindsight is always a great thing, as I say, but I think it should be something for younger people, younger
Mm.
men and women, but especially the men as well, for younger ones. Hold the power just came back for men, for younger men to also read already, because it will it will be of such a great help to them to start understanding. I think, yeah, maybe young people are already a little bit easier in talking than the older generation are, but still, there are a lot of lessons in this book that you say, okay, some of these things can and might happen to you. At least you can know what happened, how people got through it, the pain it caused, but also, for me at the moment, I mean, mine is my story's got a happy ending, because I mean, I with who I am now, with Arthi, and we it's amazing, but it is, things can and will change, but it needs to happen here, because everything begins with a thought. So as soon as these things happen, we need to learn to intercept those thoughts. As you said already, we need to become aware, because choice is not a function of power, of knowledge. Choice is a function of awareness. So if we become more aware of what is already happening out there, we always say to people that we can grab a book and we can learn from those that have gone before us, so we don't have to make the same mistakes. This is just one such book.
Yeah, I gave myself an idea. I need to make sure that, and this is a Christmas recommendation. The book for the guy who doesn't have everything, because he doesn't have his book.
Yeah, I mean, there you go, eh? Yeah.
Okay, so for everybody who just had load shedding, you can watch the replay, and I highly recommend it. And I know a lot of people are coming in and watching the replay. So for everybody who's coming in watching the replay, if I value each and every one of you. If you have any comments, just make it at Louise or at Jan, and we'll come in and we'll keep on responding to you. And please share, because you all know a man, and you all know this is not just for men. This book, the lessons are equal. Whether you're a man or a woman, they are equal. I do have to say that I did contemplate, should I not make it gender specific? But I thought, you know what, I actually want to, in this case, for all my other books, I say it's not gender specific. In this case, nobody has to take
No.
exception, but it is a relationship for about men and women. So a relationship, but it does
Yeah.
apply still to absolutely everybody. It's the same story. We are all marshmallow inside, and we all have to learn to be vulnerable, and how to ask for help, and how to receive help, and not to trust our thinking, and how to not squish our feelings. Okay, Jan, a goodbye message from you. Last words.
No, I just want to reiterate what you just said. Even though it says relationship for men, it's how women also can learn to understand their man better, because there might be stories in there that's happening to them, and then they can talk through it with their man. Because it is still one of the toughest things to do for a man, to ask for help, to admit that they're failures, or to admit that they made mistakes, all those kind of things. So I just think, yes, ask questions in the comments box, and as you said, we will respond. But I just think that I hope that this kind of book, and it's not because I'm in it. I mean, it's because of the content of that book, all the content from amazing men from around the world. I hope that some of it will help you, whether you're a man or a woman, whatever age you are. I hope that, and if not, that you will, even though it's about feelings and vulnerability, that you will enjoy reading the book, that you get to understand yourself a little bit more, and also understand your partner. So I wish I'd known that 10 years ago. Well, you get to know it now only if you get the book, of course.
It reads a little bit like a bestseller because there's sex in it, and there's affairs in it, and there's happy endings in it, there's unhappy end. There's like every single suspense in it, there's thriller in it, so but every single boy meets girl, every boy meets girl, things go wrong. And so it's like literally every single quality of a bestseller thriller out there. No, it's like it's riveting reading. I can't wait for people to read it. Thank you so much for showing up and taking part and being part of this wonderful book. And everybody out there, please go spread the word. And thank you all for coming. Thanks, Jan, for being here.
Yes, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this. It's been a privilege, and I look forward to the future together.
We'll do that again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.